We're back for our second test match. I'm going to keep this hand because it's not bad. We'll see what we're playing against, I guess. A blue deck. Looks like Delver. Your Delver matchup shouldn't be that bad. You really have to resolve Pestilence, and then you are pretty good. It's going to be a little tough, but hopefully we can get there. See if he goes Ninja and has the turn 2 God Opening. Looks like he does. So, sweet. At least I have 2 Thurbin Inspectors to block, I suppose. One big problem with this deck is that I'm having personally is the number of coming to play tap lands has been a little bit of a problem, but I think it's just that I'm running into certain spots where it's a problem. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be. I mean, against a deck like this, it shouldn't be. Does my opponent really have a bounce spell? Alright, well, I'll force it out. I can't not block. They probably have a snap, so I'm gonna get screwed here. A big problem is after board, you don't have anything for Delver. Delver shouldn't be that bad of a matchup, but the main problem is the fact that you just don't have like any instant speed removal. So I mean, you have 2 Disfigure, that's cool. You have 2 Chainer's Edicts, that's also cool. But you don't really have anything else past that whatsoever. So it's kind of a problem. Another Prismatic Strands. Alright, well, I'm gonna go Crypt Rats, and then hopefully draw an untapped Swamp. The Bajuka Bog is starting to show its worth, I guess. Where it's starting to screw me in this spot, because if it was an untapped Swamp, I'd be in much better shape next turn. Which is unfortunate, but nothing I can really do about it. So I guess we'll just move on. Opponent didn't have a Daze, which is interesting. Let's see what they flip the Delver off of. Probably going to be a counterspell. They didn't flip at all. I gotta say, I'm surprised. Probably more surprised than anyone else who's watching this right now. I'm sorry if I sound run down. I'm having a really, really tough day. There's a Preordain. Alrighty, I guess. If I don't draw an untapped black source, I'll probably just put the Scoured Barons, Scoured Barons. Alright, top, so I guess he's threatening to flip Delver. If I draw an untapped Plains, I might just go Thraben Inspector, leave up Prismatic Strands, just so I can prevent some damage and not allow my opponent to draw a card. I guess they're going to draw a card with a Ninja this turn, so they're not going to flip Delver. Just going to take it. There's no point in blocking the Delver. At the very least, I have Prismatic Strands in my hand to try and fog next turn to stop my opponent from drawing a card. So I guess that's not terrible, but it's not like I'm in an incredibly good position. Wall of Hope's actually not bad, because now I can block this indefinitely. So that's actually not a bad draw. We'll play out the Wall of Hope. We'll leave up the Crypt Rats to pop the Spellstar Sprite that's probably in my opponent's hand, unless they just counterspell. And they do. Alright, well. And that, if that's the case, we'll just play the Thraben Inspector, and we'll put the Scoured Barons into play. And attack for 1, because I'm not blocking with the Crypt Rats. This thing either keeps this from attacking, or chumps the ninja, since I'm going to do this for 2 anyway, so it doesn't actually make a huge bit of difference. I do have 3 clues, I guess, to draw some cards, so that's not terrible. But it's certainly not leaving me in a good position. See what my opponent flips the Delver with. You have to believe they're going to flip it now, right? Of course they do. That's Ponder. They did not know it was there, so they got lucky. Yep. Ponder, and they're holding priority. I don't know if Magic Online does that on its own, or my opponents just do that for whatever reason they see fit. Or there's a tick on Magic Online that you can hold priority on all your spells. I guess if they had that, that'd be really annoying. So, there's that, but, you know, it's not a big deal, I guess. So, my opponent snapped, and they seem to just have it all. 5, 6, 7. So, there's a couple of good reasons why I'm dead here, and the reason is this Bojuka Bog. So, it sucks that this was the reason that I lost. It's possible that when I saw Island Fairy Miscreant, I probably should have just went Bojuka Bog on turn 1 just so I could guarantee have double black up on turn 4. So, it's incredibly possible that I messed this game up. So, we're just going to chalk it up to that. As far as what to bring in, we're going to bring in Duress and Crypt Rats. I don't really think that we need the Sen's Enlistment. Prismatic Strands is just straight crap. It doesn't actually really do anything in this matchup, even though it would have been okay there. Chainer's Edict is obviously not great, because it doesn't really do what you want it to. It just, well, it really doesn't do much, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'm just going to take out 2 of them. The problem is that they have so many creatures they can just throw away, like a Spellstar Sprite or a Fairy Miscreant, that, I hate allergies, that it just doesn't really do anything. Like, the only cards that really matter in this matchup that you want to get down are this, 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 and this. Like, it's these 4 different cards right here. Those are really the only ones. Like, the point of Duress in this deck is to clear the way for a Pestilence or for Crypt Rats to make it down. One big thing that Golgotha Boros has over this deck is it has, you know, all the spot removal plus Pyroblast. It's not... We're going to keep this in. It's not terrible. Is that it's not... excuse me. It's not bogged down by winning with a big 4-mana enchantment. But, again, it's... I'm going to chalk it up to I lost game 1 on my own merits because I sequenced my lands wrong. So let that be a lesson to you that double black is probably the most important thing that you could have in this deck on turn 4. You just want as much black mana in play as possible. And again, the Bojuka Bog's in my hand, which is really, really annoying, but... I'm going to play the Wall of Hope first, because Wall of Hope blocks Ninja the Deep Hours, which I'm pretty sure my opponent probably has in his hand. Play this Basilica, pass. Since my opponent's only on 4 cards, I might just Duress next turn. I guess they don't have a Ninja, or if they do, they're not doing it. That's a lot of Fairy Miscreants. Yeah, I think next turn I'm just going to Duress just to see what's going on here. So we'll Duress first, because this was more important in case they have a Daze. Delver, Isler, Delver Island. Alright. Play the Sturban Spectre. And we'll just pass the turn. So, as long as this Pestilence can resolve, we should be fine. But my opponent, unless I top deck and untap land next turn, my opponent's going to have a very big reprieve. I can tell you this, that I think at this point, your control matchup is so bad, and you're great, and like most of the decks that use the graveyard, oh, that was a good top deck. Must be nice. Most of the decks that use the graveyard, you're not very good against. So I think I'm just going to take the Bojuka Bog out of the deck, because this is ridiculous. Like, this is actually just the most annoyed I think I've ever been with this deck so far, is just drawing this Bojuka Bog and seeing that it could have been a swamp the whole time. Okay, so my opponent should have Island blank in their hand. Okay, so now they just have Island in their hand. Never mind. It's a lot of Fairy Miscreants. At least I get to play the Even Rift Watcher next turn and just block the hell out of my opponent for a little bit. That's always fun. Well, Crypt Rats is good too, but I think resolving Pestilence... I'm sorry, well, no, I can't resolve Pestilence, but I could resolve Crypt Rats, but I think resolving Aven Rift Watcher is probably just as good. I'm going to attack the Thraben Spectre. My opponent's not going to block, so it doesn't really make a difference. The fact of the matter is now, worst case scenario, I can go Crypt Rats next turn for 1, so that's always a good thing. Except that now, even Spellstar Sprite counters Pestilence, so I'm not really doing too good here. Opponent will probably flip. Yep. Wow, they flipped the Vapor Snag. Sweet. Just what I wanted. This gets tilting after a while. This stupid Bojuka Bug. Lol. Yep. Funny thing, I still gain 2 life, but my opponent gets in for 7. And they probably have a counterspell, so I guess I just run the Aven Rift Watcher into the counterspell. Unless they tap out for a Ninja, which would be the best case scenario, because then I could play Pestilence and they can't do anything about it. Alright, so they'll return the Fairy Miscreant, and I get to resolve Pestilence. I'm just gonna assume my opponent doesn't have Daze in his hand, because, well, if they do, I'm dead, so there isn't really anything I can do about it. I know they still have one more island, so there it is. I guess they could have Force Spec, now they're just replaying the Fairy Miscreant. So I could go Crypt Rats for 1 here, but just resolving Pestilence is going to be the best case scenario. Excuse me. So that's that. If it doesn't resolve, I may as well just scoop it up. If they just... yeah, well. Okay. They just drew Daze. There's not much you can do about that. So I can block, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I go to 7. And then, guess I kind of have to resolve Crypt Rats or else I die. Nothing I can really do. Might as well attack for 1 since I'm not blocking. This is the tilt factor of Delvers, when they just draw every single thing that they need in the exact right order that they need it without even trying. And you just sit back and there's just nothing you can do. That's why Stompy is so good against it, because it keeps Delver on its toes. It doesn't allow Delver this amount of time to just draw whatever the hell they want. Another one? Cool. Well, I suppose at least this time Daze doesn't screw me as hard. This is a mull to 5, by the way. This is how stupid this deck can be. It's not as great in the format as it once was, but it's still pretty dumb. So we'll go ahead and play this Crypt Rats. See what my opponent has to say about it. So we're just going to do this now, because... wait, I want to hold control, I suppose. If this doesn't work, I'm filing for compensation. Okay, it did. So yeah, it's better to do it in like one increments to spread out the damage so that your opponent has to like do stuff. So I'm nowhere near in a good spot, but I'm not totally screwed currently, I guess. I could be worse off, but... Alright, so... Let's try to resolve this Aven Riftwatcher, get it countered real quick, and then I will Night's Whisper. Oh, my opponent's not countering it? I've never been more surprised. Oh, well. They're just F6ing. Okay, cool. Why not? So if they're F6ing last turn, they don't have a counterspell for either bones, I'm going to be extremely impressed. And my opponent just decided to scoop. Kind of feel like that's a premature scoop, but I guess I'll take it after the beating that I just received. So yeah, so to beat Delver, what you really want, I think, in this deck is more disfigure effects, just more cheap removal interaction, like what you call it, Doomblade, things like that. I don't think that there's anything else to sideboard. Again, Chainer's Edict just isn't very good. It's rather slow, so there just isn't really a point. And we'll just keep it the way it is. Alright, so this hand's not awful. Like, I'm not really going to mulligan into anything that's much better than an opening hand like this. The question is, do I go turn 1 Thraben Inspector, or do I go Scoured Baron so I can go turn 2 Duress into Wall of Hope? And I think the answer is I go turn 1 Wall of Hope and not Duress. Maybe. Yeah, I think I go turn 1 Wall of Hope just to get it out from under stuff. I mean, if my opponent dazes it, they daze it. It happens. I think going turn 1 Wall of Hope is probably better than Thraben Inspector. Okay, so they have a Daze in their hand. They wouldn't be thinking this long if they didn't have one. They probably have Daze, Island, Ninja. And they're contemplating, do I just get in once with Ninja or do I just take a turn off? Unfortunately, they can take a turn off, so... I guess in that regard I should have just went turn 2 Duress like my gut was telling me, but I didn't listen. It's really hard when the Delver deck just has the same exact hand every game, and it's a hand that you just cannot beat. And it just gets really depressing after a while, but you just learn to accept it. I guess Disfigure's not terrible. Go Thraben Inspector here. I suppose they could daze this too if they want. I didn't think so. And we'll gain a life. There's another deck where Thraben Inspector really shines because the excuse me, the fact that it's such a good blocker and it gives you a clue is just really, really good. Oh, they don't have Ninja? I am thoroughly surprised. Truly I am, actually. I think the best card that I could draw right now is just basic Swamp, because it allows me to go Duress and Disfigure. Or if I want to, Night's Whisper and Disfigure. Either way, drawing an untapped Swamp is probably the best draw next turn. I suppose also that drawing an Orzhov Basilica wouldn't be bad, because then I could still go Disfigure on the Delver, but then I could also just have a guaranteed 4 mana. So there's that. Looks like my opponent's not going to shuffle. So, they're just taking a long time. Alright, opponent decided not to shuffle, like I said. They're down to almost 10 minutes. What the hell happened? Alright, that's not bad, so we'll go ahead and disfigure this now. I could attack, but there's no point because they're not going to block anyway. Yes, you should always offer your opponent the trade, but I'm just not going to bother with it. I just would rather save myself some time and some extra clicks. Go ahead and attack for 1. Pass the turn. So next turn I can go Duress Night's Whisper, which is going to be pretty good. It's possible that I maybe should have disfigured the Fairy Miscreant. Not exactly sure. No, never mind. Not anymore. Alright. Take 1. Huh. Pestilence would have been good. I could go Guardian here, but I think Night's Whisper is probably better. I just want to get to a Pestilence type of thing. It's not what I'm looking for. Not really. This is another matchup also with Palace Sentinels isn't very good with this deck. If they daze this, it's a wash. There's nothing I can really do about it. Because I was gonna get dazed no matter what by something. So basically what's happening right now is I'm drawing the wrong half of my deck, and my opponent is drawing the correct half of their deck in the exact order that they need to. So this is kind of showing just how this deck maybe is a little too top heavy for the meta. It might just be a little too slow. Or it might just need to change because the meta has just changed itself. I'll go ahead and Duress, I'll get its Spellstar sprited, and then I'll go Guardian, just because it's the really only good play that I can make. I could play Palace Sentinels to draw a card, but giving my Delver opponent extra cards just does not seem very good. I don't know what my opponent's thinking about this. They're either Spellstar spreading it, or they're using the other counterspell in their hand. They chose not to counterspell. They have Disperse and Snap. What? Alright. I don't know why they're showing me that. They should have just counterspelled. Oh, I guess they want to disperse a, what the hell is that? Pestilence? Which seems kind of dumb to me, but oh well. Such is life. Surprisingly enough, Chainer's Edict would be really good here, because I could kill this and then kill this, but oh, that's great. Never mind. Now Chainer's Edict is completely turned off. Alright. We need to hit Pestilence here, else we just lose. Yeah, we're pretty dead. Because we're going to take 5, and then there's literally no way we can come back, so I'm just going to have to scoop it up. It's a shame, but it happens. So, I really like this deck. I think it's a lot of fun. But I think that if you want to go for a mid-range style of deck, I think Kuldotha Boros is just naturally better. I think Kuldotha Boros is also just a naturally better Palace Sentinels deck, just because of all the cheap one-for-one removal you get. It's true that against a lot of decks, if you just land a Pestilence, you probably just win, as we did in Game 2, and we probably could have won Game 1, so if anything, that matchup was lost purely to me. You know, so like I said, this deck has a lot of potential. It's just I don't think that it's better than Kuldotha Boros. I also think it's a little too slow for the meta right now. Like, you're relying on so many 4-drops against the meta where there's so many quick cards. And your game plan doesn't even really work against something like Tron, because they'll just go over the top of Pestilence and just really not give a crap. They can also easily play around cards like Guardian of the Guild Pact and Crypt Rats and all those types of things. The sideboard really is what it is. It's very... I think the Sen's Enlistment idea is probably just not as good as I thought it was in the beginning. It's been good, but it hasn't really shown its worth. So, I think I would take that out. I'm not exactly sure for what. Maybe a 3rd Standard Bearer, just to guarantee that you draw it, might be better. I can definitely tell you that you need more spot removal. You definitely need some more Doomblade effects, in my opinion. But then again, I mean, Mo Lovebow 5-0'd with it. I don't know if he played the deck again after, so I'm not an expert, and if you want any advice, you should go to him. I'm really just showing this deck to you. I don't think he'd have a problem talking to you about it, so just don't bother him while he's in the game, because, you know, it's kind of rude and he wants to concentrate. Other than that, I think my verdict on this deck is I would practice with it and practice with it and practice with it before I would ever take it into a league. And I would walk into a league not really expecting to 5-0 my first few leagues around, or really at all. I think Pile Sentinels is better than Thorn of the Black Rose, I'll go ahead and say that. So my verdict is, I think I would recommend Kuldotha Boros over this deck, from my own testing. As always, thank you for watching, and do remember to check out PurumTGO.com, as they have tons of great content from plenty of writers that's much better than my own, and I probably ever will be. If you feel like it, you don't really have to, but you can subscribe to me on YouTube. I don't really think I'll ever make this a career, but it brings me a little piece of happiness anytime someone subscribes to me, so there's that. You don't have to. I just ask that you enjoy my content and you learn from it if you can, or you just enjoy, you know, watching me get thrashed, or enjoy watching me win and be surprised by it. Do remember to look forward to the Community Pauper Challenge that's coming soon. If you want to follow the channel, it's twitch.tv/ hold on. It's twitch.tv/ Community Pauper Challenge. We should be going live in a couple of weeks with Season 2, but that is a little up in the air right now. It's definitely going to be in June. It's just not exactly sure of when. It depends on the scheduling for everybody who's competing and everybody who's involved. So there's that. I guess I could say, if there's a deck that I haven't covered in a while that you guys want me to, let me know and I'll cover it. Because I mean, I'm pretty much covered almost everything. I'm running out of decks to cover, actually. So there's that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching so much, and I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it.